What if everything you know about human evolution is incomplete? Not wrong, but missing a chapter so profound it rewrites our very identity. In the bloodstream of millions of West Africans flows a genetic whisper, a shadow sequence, DNA from a species of human that officially doesn't exist. Scientists call it ghost DNA, and its discovery was so unexpected, so contrary to established theory, that researchers spent years trying to explain it away. They couldn't. For generations, we've been taught the same story, a clean, simple narrative. Homo sapiens evolved in Africa around 300,000 years ago. Then, around 70,000 years ago, small groups ventured out to populate the world. The out-of-Africa model. Clean, simple, and incomplete. You've seen this diagram 100 times. The march of progress, from hunched ape to upright human. Neat branches on our family tree leading to us. The sole survivors. The last humans standing. But DNA doesn't lie. And when geneticists turned their powerful new tools on our genome, cracks began to appear in this tidy narrative. The first shock came in 2010. Geneticist Svante Pääbo at the Max Planck Institute achieved what many thought impossible. He sequenced the Neanderthal genome from 40,000-year-old bones. The results? If you're of European or Asian descent, approximately 2% of your DNA comes from Neanderthals. Our ancestors didn't just meet them, they had children with them. Then came the Denisovans, a sister species to Neanderthals, identified from a single finger bone in a Siberian cave. Today, people in Papua New Guinea carry up to 6% Denisovan DNA. Some Tibetans owe their ability to survive at high altitudes to a Denisovan gene. Our family tree wasn't a tree at all. It was a tangled web of interconnected branches. But there was a curious pattern to these discoveries. Europeans had Neanderthal DNA, Asians had Neanderthal and Denisovan DNA. What about Africans? The cradle of humanity itself? The textbook said they should be pure Homo sapiens. No interbreeding, no genetic ghosts. The textbooks were wrong. As geneticists turned their powerful new tools back to Africa, they found something that didn't fit. A genetic signal that wasn't human, wasn't Neanderthal, and wasn't Denisovan. It was something else entirely. A ghost. And not just any ghost. Something ancient. Something that split from our lineage before Neanderthals even existed. Something that, according to the fossil record, shouldn't be there at all. Science advances through anomalies, data points that don't fit our current understanding. In 2020, one such anomaly shattered our view of human evolution. The breakthrough came in a landmark paper published in Science Advances. Researchers Arun Durvasula and Sriram Sankararaman from UCLA developed a new statistical method to scan modern genomes for echoes of ancient ancestors. Think of it like this. Imagine your DNA is a vast library. Most books were written by your direct ancestors, your parents, grandparents, and so on. But scattered throughout are pages from much older texts, copied and recopied over countless generations. These UCLA scientists created a way to identify those ancient pages, even when the original authors disappeared hundreds of thousands of years ago. Their technique was revolutionary. Previous methods could only detect ghost DNA if you already had a reference genome to compare it to, like we do for Neanderthals. But how do you find something when you don't know what you're looking for? Their answer: look for patterns. Sections of DNA that don't match the expected pattern of human variation. Sections that behave differently, that cluster together in unusual ways. They applied their technique to the 1000 Genomes Project, a massive database containing genetic information from populations worldwide. Then they focused specifically on West African groups, particularly the Yoruba people of Nigeria and the Mende of Sierra Leone. What they found stunned the scientific community. Between 2% and 19% of the DNA in these West African populations comes from an unknown archaic hominin, a ghost species that interbred with the ancestors of modern West Africans approximately 50,000 years ago. Let that sink in. Up to 1/5 of their genetic makeup comes from a species of human we have never identified. A species that, according to the fossil record, shouldn't exist. This isn't just any ghost ancestor. According to their analysis, this lineage split from our own approximately 650,000 years ago, long before the split between modern humans and Neanderthals, which occurred roughly 600,000 years ago. As Dr. Sankararaman stated, this archaic population was evolutionarily ancient. To put that in perspective, Neanderthals are our distant cousins. This ghost species would be more like a great-great-aunt or uncle, a lineage that branched off before our immediate family even formed. And somehow, impossibly, they survived. For hundreds of thousands of years, long enough to encounter our direct ancestors in West Africa and leave their genetic legacy. The scale of this discovery is difficult to overstate. We're not talking about a few random genes. We're talking about tens of thousands of genetic variants affecting everything from immune function to metabolism to potential resistance against regional diseases. This wasn't a brief encounter. It was a sustained interaction between two human species, one we know and one that remains a ghost. But if this ghost species contributed so much DNA to modern West Africans, why don't we have any fossils? Why isn't this species in our textbooks? Who or what were they? The hunt for answers leads us to three prime suspects. When detectives have DNA but no suspect, they create a profile: age, physical characteristics, possible whereabouts. Geneticists and paleoanthropologists have done the same with our ghost. The genetic data gives us three critical clues. First, they split from our lineage around 650,000 years ago. Second, they interbred with our ancestors around 50,000 years ago. Third, they lived in West Africa. With these clues, three candidates emerge. Candidate number 1, Homo heidelbergensis. Discovered in 1907 near Heidelberg, Germany, this species lived across Africa and Europe between 700,000 and 300,000 years ago. They had massive brow ridges, powerful bodies, and brains nearly as large as our own. Many paleoanthropologists, including Professor Chris Stringer of London's Natural History Museum, consider Homo heidelbergensis the likely common ancestor of Neanderthals, Denisovans, and us. The European populations evolved into Neanderthals, while the African populations evolved into us. Or so we thought. The timeline fits perfectly with the 650,000-year split found in the UCLA study. And we have fossils from Africa, like the famous Kabwe skull from Zambia, that show heidelbergensis was definitely there. But there's a problem. Most heidelbergensis fossils in Africa are from the east and south, not West Africa, where our ghost DNA appears. And they supposedly went extinct or evolved into modern humans long before the 50,000-year interbreeding event. Unless some isolated population survived. Candidate number 2, Homo erectus. Now we're venturing into more controversial territory. Homo erectus is one of the oldest members of our genus, appearing around 1.9 million years ago. They were the first humans to leave Africa, spreading across Asia. With smaller brains, more primitive features, and a distinctive skull shape, erectus seems too ancient to be our ghost. The standard narrative says they disappeared from Africa over 1 million years ago. But recent discoveries have shattered that timeline. A 2019 study in Nature on the Ngandong site in Java dated Homo erectus to just over 100,000 years ago, far more recent than previously thought. They survived in Asia until nearly modern times. Could a similar remnant population have survived in Africa, in the dense rainforests of West Africa where fossilization is rare and exploration limited? It's not as far-fetched as it sounds. The genetic distance between our ghost and modern humans matches what we'd expect from late surviving erectus. And their tool technology, simple hand axes used for hundreds of thousands of years without change, suggests they could have maintained stable populations in isolated regions. But there's a third, more mysterious possibility. Candidate number 3, a truly unknown species. As Dr. Pontus Skoglund of the Francis Crick Institute has noted, Africa's fossil record is vast and incomplete. The The ghost DNA could belong to a species for which we have no name and no fossils. A completely unknown branch on the human family tree. Consider this. We only discovered Denisovans in 2010, and they're known from a handful of bones from a single cave. How many other human species might have existed, leaving no fossils behind? In the warm, wet forests of West Africa, the answer could be several, each with their own story, each potentially contributing to our genetic makeup. But this raises the most perplexing question of all. If this ghost species existed, where are their bones? The absence of fossils creates a paradox. Genetic evidence says these ghost humans existed. The fossil record says they didn't. How do we resolve this contradiction? The answer lies in what paleoanthropologists call taphonomic bias, the science of what gets preserved and what doesn't. When an organism dies, a race begins. Bacteria break down soft tissues. Scavengers scatter bones. Weather and chemistry erode what remains. Only under very specific conditions do fossils form at all. And West Africa has the worst conditions imaginable. As explained in the Journal of Human Evolution, the warm, humid, and acidic soils of tropical West and Central Africa are disastrous for fossil preservation. Bones quite literally dissolve, leaving no trace after a few decades, let alone thousands or millions of years. It's not that the ghost humans weren't there. It's that time itself has erased them. Compare this to the dry, alkaline conditions of East Africa's Great Rift Valley, where nearly all famous hominin fossils come from. There, bones can be preserved for millions of years, sometimes even mummified by the arid environment. This preservation bias has fundamentally shaped our understanding of human evolution. A map of major paleoanthropological sites, published by institutions like the Smithsonian, reveals a glaring truth. Decades of research have focused on the Great Rift Valley in East Africa. West Africa remains a vast archaeological blind spot. The numbers are shocking. East Africa, thousands of hominin fossils. Southern Africa, hundreds of specimens. West Africa, you can count the significant finds on one hand. It's not just a gap in our knowledge, it's a chasm. This isn't a conspiracy of silence. It's a practical reality. Dense vegetation makes survey work difficult. Political instability has limited access to many regions. Limited funding has focused research on proven fossil hotspots. The result? An evolutionary record biased toward dry, easily excavated regions. Which brings us back to our ghost. Perhaps they aren't missing from the fossil record because they didn't exist. Perhaps they're missing because they lived and died in places where bones don't survive. Their only legacy? The DNA they passed to their descendants. DNA that survived in the most remarkable fossil repository of all, the living genome of modern West Africans. But what did this DNA do? And why has it persisted for 50,000 years? Ghost DNA isn't just a scientific curiosity. It's a living legacy that continues to influence the biology of millions of people today. The 2020 Sankararaman paper identified several genes from the ghost population that may have provided adaptive advantages to our ancestors. One such gene, MUC7, is involved in saliva production and could have helped our ancestors adapt to new diets or resist certain pathogens. Another relates to tumor suppression, potentially offering protection against cancer. Others influence immune function, metabolism, and even skin pigmentation. This isn't random genetic debris. These are adaptations that proved so beneficial they've been maintained by natural selection for tens of thousands of years. In a very real sense, our ghost ancestors are still helping their descendants survive. The implications extend beyond biology. Africa has long been portrayed as the simple starting point of the human story, the place we came from before the real history began elsewhere. The ghost DNA revelation turns this narrative on its head. Africa wasn't just our birthplace. It was a complex evolutionary laboratory where multiple human species coexisted, competed, and ultimately combined their genetic legacies. Just as Europeans carry Neanderthal DNA and Asians carry Denisovan genes, Africans carry their own unique heritage from ghost ancestors we're only beginning to understand. As Dr. Sankararaman himself concluded, by jointly modeling Neanderthal, Denisovan, and ghost archaic introgression, we have gained a more complete understanding of our complex ancestral history. But the identity of the ghost remains the next great mystery in the story of us. Was it Homo heidelbergensis, persisting in isolated pockets long after they supposedly disappeared? Was it Homo erectus, adapting to forest life while their cousins spread across Asia? Or was it something entirely unknown, a human species that lived and died without leaving a single bone for us to find? The answer may come sooner than we think. New techniques are allowing scientists to extract ancient DNA from cave sediments, no bones required. Others are developing methods to detect even fainter genetic ghosts hidden in our genomes. The ghost may not remain nameless for long, but perhaps the most profound lesson isn't about who the ghost was. It's about what their existence means for our understanding of ourselves. We are not the product of a simple, linear evolution. We are a mosaic, a living tapestry woven from multiple human species. Neanderthal, Denisovan, the African ghost, and likely others we haven't yet detected. Each contributed their genetic wisdom, born from hundreds of thousands of years of adaptation to different environments. This revelation doesn't diminish our uniqueness, it enriches it. We carry within us not just one human story, but many, a genetic heritage from multiple intelligent species who once walked the earth alongside us. They live on in our blood, in our bones, in the very code that makes us who we are. As you consider your own heritage, remember, the story of humanity has never been about purity. It's about connection, adaptation, survival through cooperation and combination. The ghost in our genome isn't an aberration. It's proof of our most fundamental nature, our ability to find strength in diversity. Which raises one final, tantalizing question. What other forbidden ancestors are hiding in our DNA, waiting to be discovered? The ghost may be just the beginning. The detection of ghost DNA represents one of the most sophisticated applications of modern bioinformatics. Let's explore exactly how scientists managed to find something that, by definition, was previously unknown. Dervasula and Sankararaman employed what's called a hidden Markov model, a statistical technique that can identify patterns in data even when the underlying process is hidden. Imagine trying to determine if it rained overnight without looking outside. You might observe that the sidewalk is wet, but that could be from rain, sprinklers, or someone washing their car. The hidden Markov model looks at multiple clues simultaneously. The sidewalk is wet, and your neighbor's grass is wet, and there are water droplets on your window. Together, these observations make rain the most likely explanation. Similarly, ghost DNA leaves multiple statistical signatures that, when analyzed together, reveal its presence. These signatures include unusual patterns of linkage disequilibrium, how genes travel together through generations, distinct haplotype structures, blocks of DNA that differ significantly from typical human variation, unique mutation patterns that diverged hundreds of thousands of years ago. When these signatures align in specific populations, they point to archaic introgression, DNA from another species. Previous methods required a reference genome, like we have for Neanderthals, to detect archaic DNA. The breakthrough here was developing a reference-free approach that could detect unknown ghosts. This same technique is now being applied worldwide, potentially revealing other ghost populations we've never suspected. There's a profound implication to ghost DNA that extends beyond anthropology. It forces us to reconsider what it means to be human at all. For most of our evolutionary history, Earth was home to multiple human species simultaneously. Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, Denisovans, Homo floresiensis, the hobbits of Indonesia, Homo luzonensis in the Philippines, and now, our African ghost. We are the only survivors. But why? It wasn't simply superior intelligence. Neanderthals had larger brains than us. It wasn't just tool technology. Multiple species created sophisticated implements. The ghost DNA offers a radical alternative explanation. Perhaps we survived not because we eliminated other human species, but because we absorbed them, their adaptations, their genetic innovations, their evolutionary experiments. We became, in essence, all of them combined. Consider the Denisovan gene EPAS1, which helps Tibetans survive at high altitudes, or the Neanderthal genes that strengthen the European immune system, or the ghost genes that may protect against tropical diseases in West Africa. Each represents a successful adaptation we adopted rather than invented. Our ghost ancestors weren't evolutionary dead ends. They were participants in the great human experiment, contributing their genetic wisdom to the species that would ultimately carry humanity's torch forward. Their legacy isn't just in museum displays. It's in us. The discovery of ghost DNA raises profound ethical questions about how we understand human diversity. For centuries, differences between human populations were weaponized to create hierarchies of worth. Race science claimed some groups were closer to our ape ancestors, others more evolved. Ghost DNA demolishes these notions entirely. All modern humans are equally distant from our common ancestor with chimps. All carry DNA from archaic humans. All represent successful adaptations to different environments. Our differences don't represent a ladder of advancement. They represent a constellation of adaptive strategies. This has immediate implications for how we interpret modern genetic ancestry testing. When a test shows you're 100% African or 23% European, those categories themselves are revealed as fluid, mixed, and interconnected. Every human alive today carries the legacy of multiple ancestral populations. Some we've named, others still ghosts. For West Africans, the ghost DNA represents a unique heritage, one that contributed to their ancestors' survival for tens of thousands of years. It's not a contamination or dilution of their humanity. It's a testament to their complex evolutionary history. Just as Europeans have begun to embrace their Neanderthal ancestry, the ghost DNA offers a new dimension to African identity. The story of ghost DNA isn't over. It's just beginning. New excavations are targeting the forests of West Africa using innovative techniques designed for tropical environments. Ground-penetrating radar, environmental DNA sampling, sediment analysis from caves and rock shelters. Meanwhile, genetic analysis continues to expand. The initial studies examined only a few West African populations. As researchers analyze more groups across the continent, the map of ghost DNA will become clearer. We may discover it's not one ghost, but many, each with their own story. What's certain is that our understanding of human evolution has been forever changed. The simple story of a single species arising in Africa and conquering the world has given way to something far more nuanced and beautiful. A story of diverse human species, adapting to every environment Earth has to offer, occasionally meeting, mixing, and sharing their genetic wisdom. We carry their legacy forward, Neanderthal, Denisovan, and now our African ghost. Their genes live on in our bodies. Their adaptations help us survive. Their story is our story. They are not lost. They are us. What other forbidden ancestors are hiding in our DNA, waiting to be discovered? The ghost may be just the beginning. Thanks for watching.